Right, so the purpose of this video is a bit of a deeper dive into Talent Atrium, specifically from the recruiter's perspective. And just a quick note about why this exists. Last year I applied for, I don't know, almost 1,000, I think maybe around about 1,000 jobs, and got incredibly very little feedback. And that process led me to believe that something is terribly broken. Spoken to a few recruiters, and I got the same idea, but from a completely different perspective. This is not an attack or anything on recruiters. It is a recognition that the system that this fundamentally sits on can be better, which is why I created Talent Atrium. A recruiter I spoke to recently said that if she doesn't close a vacancy within a week, she can get as much as 500 applications. Now, from a recruiter's perspective, how are you meant to get through all of those realistically, genuinely, and with discernment? And then another recruiter I spoke to last year, she mentioned that it specifically pains her that she cannot get back to every single candidate who were not successful in being shortlisted and or in the role, because she understands as just a basic decent human being, she understands that, you know, if you don't get back to someone, like it's almost like not getting closure. And so with all of that in mind, and with my experience in mind, I decided to create this because it serves not just the recruiters. It doesn't just serve candidates. It serves both sets of stakeholders that struggle with effectively the same problem. So with that said, let's get into the recruiter side of things. So you're going to go to your recruiter tab there, which will then either ask you to create a new account and or to sign into your dashboard. Now, I've already signed in, and the minute you sign in, you get dumped into your active listings. And active listings is where you are going to be looking at your active listings as well as the candidates who applied for those listings. They're fairly straightforward. You can see every single one that you've uploaded, when it was created, so on and so forth, and you can go through them here. There's a sort of self-regulatory mechanism in that once you close a vacancy, everybody will get an automated email basically letting them know they have been rejected and or they have been shortlisted, and that's where you then take over the process. And the more vacancies you've got, well, not the more vacancies, but if you've got tons here that have not been closed, then it sort of serves, like I said, as a self-regulatory mechanism in that you should only have active listings here. Nothing that's aged or etc. etc. So if we go into any one of these active listings, again, as I've explained in the quick tutorial video, is that the whole purpose of this back end here is to help you work through all of your candidates. Now, I can only imagine that this person who gets 500 applications, if it takes her 30 seconds to process just one application, whether this person is suited for the role or not, that takes you 250 minutes. That's a good 5 hours worth of work. Now, this person also doesn't just do recruitment; she does other HR compliance type items. Therefore, when clients come to her with a remit of filling a vacancy, then that's almost 5-10 hours of a day taken away. And I say 10 hours not because I want to be dramatic, but if you think about it, when you sat there with 500 CVs, it takes you 30 seconds to get through each and every one. You're not just going to sit there like a robot and work through all 500 in one go. You're going to need bathroom breaks, smoke breaks. You're going to sometimes work late and get to 12 a.m. in the morning and go, I cannot do this anymore. I need to go to bed now. So what this serves to achieve is to help reduce that fatigue. So when we look at our view candidates, imagine now you've got 500 candidates here. Every single one of them will be scored against their compatibility to the vacancy itself. Now, before anybody gets upset, these names, CVs, data, everything has been randomly generated by ChatGPT, so there's no real person's details being displayed here. But now you've got like 100 or 200 or 500 applicants here. They've all been scored against how they match, how they line up with this vacancy. For sake of example, if we had a shelf stacker person here that stacks shelves in a grocery store, they're obviously not going to score as well against this vacancy because they may not be qualified, whether through experience or traditionally. Same with like a C-suite level candidate. They're obviously way overqualified for this kind of job, so they too will not score as well. The main purpose here, or the main idea here, is to look at a candidate's profile holistically, not just their CV. Yes, their CV obviously and their details play a large role in this, but also we've got a set of questions, alignment questions, if you will, which I'll get to in the ad listings section, which then holistically scores the candidate based on everything that we can get from them, whether that's inferred or whether that's actually on paper. The idea here is not just to say, listen, I need a bookkeeper that has to have this qualification. Yes, that is going to be what your requirement is, and they will certainly surface and they will come to the top. But we will also consider the person with 20 years of bookkeeping experience, even though they don't have that qualification. It's not to bias one candidate over another. It's looking holistically at every single one candidate and matching them to your vacancy, not just by what's written on their CV or on your vacancy, but holistically. Effectively, what we're trying to do is not just read the lines, but read between the lines and really get an understanding for, this is your vacancy, but what is your vacancy you really need? This is the candidate, but who is this candidate really? And then match them according to that. Because sometimes a good candidate is going to fall through the cracks because a traditional ATS system would match them based on what I'd like to call hard lines, where it doesn't even consider the soft lines. And that is what I'm trying to help here as well, is not just help you work through hundreds of applicants quickly and efficiently. And it's not about quick, it's not about efficient, it's not about cutting corners, if you will. It's about circumnavigating fatigue. That is really what this comes down to. But it's not just about, like I said, bookkeepers getting to the back of the line or to the front of the line when you've listed a certain vacancy. It really is trying to filter through and surface the core competencies of said candidate against your vacancy. You can open up the candidate here and you can go through their entire profile. There's a summary there, there's strengths, depending on how much information they are willing to give over, then additional information will be here. There's their compatibility score against what your vacancy requires, and there's their full report there based on what they have completed. And that is the active listings. Actually, before we move on to the active listings, before we move on to the next two sessions, let me just quickly, while I'm here, explain Rapid Match. Now, imagine for a second that you've got a client that tells you immediately, listen, I need to fill this vacancy almost immediately. And you have 2,000 available candidates sitting in your candidate pool. You've got to go through each and every single one of them, maybe score them, maybe rank them, maybe do whatever. You have the ability, and this is a paid for or a premium additional service. You do get a set of credits for this, and we'll get to credits and billing and how all that works. But for now, all you need to understand is that Rapid Match is an additional premium service. You get X amount of usage in with your regular plan, but the purpose of it is to say, listen, I need to fill this vacancy ASAP. This vacancy is either a hybrid, or it's in London, or it's in Johannesburg, or it's wherever. So you're going to populate your location. You're going to add in more filters. Then you're going to calculate how many people actually match this. It's going to also tell you how many credits you're going to need for it, and then you process it. And the purpose of this is, out of your 2,000 candidates, based on the filters you've just applied, you'll now automatically and instantly see another 100 or 200 candidates here, or maybe 50. I don't know how it's going to work in terms of who all meet your criteria, but you could get another 50 candidates here. They are going to score whatever they score, and then you can instantly just say, listen, Mr. or Mrs. or person client, I have 10, 15 people here immediately for you. But point is, you can quickly and rapidly get a set of candidates who match your criteria almost instantly, without having to go to available candidates, looking at this person going, okay, brilliant. And there's a summary, okay, that's nice, download CV, consider this. It's just a much better way, and the scoring happens exactly the same as any sort of other regular applicant applying for any of your vacancies. Okay, yeah, and that is that for active listings. Next, we will jump into closed listings and drafts real quick. Right. Okay. So now in the next bit, we're going to quickly discuss closed closed listings, and drafts. And I mean, these two, I'd like to believe, are fairly straightforward. Anything that you've closed will appear here. If you'd like to reopen it, you can. It will give you the option to alert candidates again or not, but it's fairly straightforward. And the same for drafts. Really nothing much in there. If you don't want to list a vacancy live immediately, you save it as a draft and you come back here when you're done. That's pretty much straightforward. Next, I want to come to add a listing. Adding a listing is fairly straightforward. You'll see there's all the various bunch of criteria there, what you need to do, etc., etc. I'm not going to bore you with that because I think you'd be able to work that out for yourself. A little cool function that I've included, and this is also, you get X amount of free full form description depending on what plan you're on. But basically what this means is if client gives you an unstructured set of data or text or document or whatever, you can literally just come and go, let me just grab, copy all of this, paste it straight into here, and you'll be able to extract in full. Now, as you can see, this demo recruiter does not have any more free listings remaining. It costs them 1 credit. They've only got rapid match credits, so they cannot do any more of these. It really is just, it's a purpose or a function to give you, instead of having to type out every single thing by one manually, to just help you extract that. Before you worry too much, I'm fairly generous. You'll see this in the credits and billing in terms of how many of these you get for free for a month. But also there is a cost involved in that. Therefore, at some point, it does become, it's just a mechanism to regulate abuse, basically. So the basics, the role classification, technical skills, I'm not going to run through all of those because, like I said, they're fairly straightforward. The things that I do want to mention, which I think is very important, is your match settings, candidate pooling, and application limit. So match settings, you've got L1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 6. You will see that level 1 means entry level and early career candidates, all the way up to level 6, which will be your C-suite people. Now, basically, each of these has a set of questions. I think this is 45, no, it's 30, then 15, then 15. Can't remember exactly, but basically once you've answered all 6 of these, you've answered 200 questions, and that helps us align your personality with the vacancy that you're applying for. And you will need to select, when you're listing a new listing, one of these. Now, from a candidate's perspective, they will only once complete L1, L2, L3, L4, so on and so forth. Once they've completed all of those, their sort of personality traits will have been taken into account. But you will need to then require which one of these do you need to, or does a candidate need to complete in order to be considered for this vacancy. Then candidate pool participation. This platform is built to serve and to be collaborative and to help everybody, all of these stakeholders involved in its chain. Therefore, it's not just here for recruiters, it's here for recruiters and candidates. And what I mean by that is, I'm recruiter A, and over there's recruiter B. I'm recruiting for a level 1 or 2 position. Person over there is recruiting for a level 5 or 6 position. Unintentionally and inevitably, I'm going to get people that are more qualified than L1 and L2 to apply for my jobs vacancy, and vice versa. Now, what this serves to do is, this person or this recruiter will show their vacancy, let's say on platform 1, 2, and 3, and I show my vacancy on platform 9, 10, and 11, for sake of example. And when both of us switch these candidate pool participations on, that then means that anybody who applies for their vacancy and anybody who applies for my vacancy will automatically come. We will cross-pollinate our pools. Therefore, somebody that applies for their job that is more suited to an L2, I will then get access to, and vice versa. It is just so to serve the candidate as best as possible in terms of them applying for a job that is a bit more suitable for them. Later on, you'll not later on, when I explained the rapid matching, this person who switched on their pool participation on their level 5 and 6 vacancy, who then got level 2 applicants, and I've also switched mine on, that will then automatically give me access to those candidates because they might actually be a much better suit or fit for my role. And then when I rapid match them, they will come up they will surface in my active listing. So it really is a collaborative thing, but the criteria is that if I don't switch it on here, I don't get to use anybody else's candidates, and vice versa. So the control remains with you. Then finally, excuse me, finally, application limit. When we get to credits and billing, you will see that 1 credit equates to 1 applicant. So if an applicant applies for this for a vacancy, that will then reduce 1 credit. And the reason why we work on that is because obviously there's a cost in scoring and evaluating the candidate. So from your perspective, this during the other 2 intro videos, I mentioned a recruiter that I work with, who mentioned once that if she doesn't close a vacancy within 7 days, she will probably get around 500 applications. She can then limit here and say, listen, I can only afford to spend 100 credits per vacancy, therefore limit it to 100. You can leave it unlimited, you can do whatever you want. It is just to give you as much control as possible, so that the platform serves you as best as possible, so you get the best results. But as that, when you're done, you can go ahead and hit publish, and your listing will be live in your active listings. Or if you want to just pause it for a moment, you just stick it into drafts. As simple as that. Then when available candidates, as I've just discussed, if you have opened your vacancy to other recruiters through the pool and vice versa, then all of, not just your candidates who applied for your vacancies, but where there's that reciprocal approach from the candidate pool perspective, then those candidates will also, their candidates will also appear here, and you will see that there's no cross-pollination and or sense of data being exposed here. It literally is just a quick run through of what this person's skill is, their profiles, sort of summary, their profile summary, and their skill set there. And then, of course, if they've selected also to be pooled, then you'll be able to download their CV there. But it really just, it helps just sort of through, I don't want to say the zeitgeist, but like, you get what I'm trying to say, like sort of it spreads itself naturally, so that this person may have applied not even for one of your jobs or vacancies. She might have applied for a whole different vacancy somewhere, but now she has the ability to compete against whatever is going on in your side of things, because she might actually be a decent candidate for whatever role you've got. It really is just to advance that collaborative spirit across the platform, whether it's from a candidate or a recruiter's perspective. But that, for closed drafts, ad listings, and available candidates, that is about that. Anything else I may have forgotten or whatever, I will stick it in the comments, no, in the description. So yeah, next we will tackle credits and billing and feedback. Okay, so in the last section of this, we've got credits and billing, and then we'll quickly handle feedback after as well. These, I would like to believe, is fairly straightforward. You can see what goes on here. We are currently in demo mode, so none of these buttons work just yet. But as soon as we're out of demo mode, they will. And yeah, like I said, I think it's fairly straightforward. Let's quickly just use the starter pack as an example. So you get 400 credits per month, which means technically if you only upload one vacancy, there's 400 applicants who can apply for it. Or if you load up 4 vacancies and you set the limit to 100 credits each, then you still have 400 applicants, but this time you only get 100 applicants per vacancy. Let's say you run out of credits and you just need another 50, you don't want to upgrade to this plan, then you can also just buy additional credits. Obviously, additional credits are a little bit more expensive, but you don't need to upgrade to a whole bigger tier just for those extra 50 or 100 credits. You also see that in your starter pack, you've got 12 free job descriptions. So what I explained here in the add a listing, those fill forms things here, these guys here. So on a starter plan, you will get 12 of these completely for free, which I believe is more than adequate. And that continues throughout the pricing models. Just a quick note on how credits actually work. So you're on the starter plan, you get your 400 credits. Now you spend all your credits throughout the month, and it's the 26th or the 21st, and you still need more credits. You go ahead and you buy another, let's say 200 additional credits, but you only end up using 100 of those. On a month-to-month basis, your monthly credits will expire. So if you don't use them, you will lose them. But your additional credits, they have a shelf life of 6 months, and they only expire or they only get used after your monthly credits get used. So now in this instance, you've used your 400, you've bought an additional 200 and you've also used another 100. Now next month you only use 350. Then we carry over the addition or the remaining 100 additional credits, and your 50 that remains from your monthly spend gets lapses. So the idea is to give you maximum value. If you don't use your credits, your additional credits within 6 months, yes, then they will expire. But every single cycle when there's a new month rolling around, we use your monthly credits before we use your additional credits, because we don't want you to be penalized for either way. So that is basically the best way that we can come up with a fair suggestion for that. If we scroll down a little bit, then here's your rapid matches. Now, because rapid matches is a bit of a premium feature, they will be a paid for. It will be a paid for service. You'll see that I've currently got the ZAR pricing model switched on, so this is why everything is in South African rands. But then you'll see that that's what you're basically paying per rapid match, and the minimum spend is 150, and then you'll get your rapid matches for that. I don't know how this is going to go down. I think there might be some people who use it a lot, some people might not use it a lot, but the option is basically there. And that's your credits and billing. Once you've got some invoices, they will appear here. And yeah, if there's anything else, you are more than free to let me know. And then finally, feedback. The whole reason why I said at the start why I built this whole thing is because I saw that there's a complete disconnect between two sides of this coin here, and I wanted to make it better for both stakeholders. And I've done the best job that I think I can do, but this is not for me. This is to serve the stakeholders involved. Therefore, if you've got any questions, queries, comments, critiques, whatever, let me know, because the only way I'm going to make this a better platform for the users, you, the recruiter, or the candidates, is by getting your feedback. And if you give me your feedback, then I can certainly implement it. So yeah, this started as a project to help both sides of the coin. It continues to be a project to help both sides of the coin. The main key takeaway from this is that it's a collaborative event. It's a thing that serves fatigued candidates, fatigued recruiters, even despondent candidates, and trying to bring them all together in a way that makes the journey just a bit more bearable and a bit easier. Because in a country like South Africa, where we've got 35% unemployment, you're probably going to get rejected for a lot of jobs. But in the very least, it gives you that feedback. In the very least, it gives you that closing loop saying, listen, hey, you weren't successful this time. Here's why. This is what you can do next time, rather than just nothing. But like I said, the purpose of the feedback here is to get your feedback, is to say, listen, hey, this function doesn't work as expected, or I think you should add this because here's the reasons why, or this is my requirements. Give me the feedback. Let me implement it, because it needs to be a purposeful platform that serves the people it was meant to serve. If you made it this far, thank you much for watching. If there's anything I've left out or whatever, it will be in the description. Like, comment, do all those nice things. Let me know how I can make this better. Thank you very much.